From all of us here at Closet Can you say Closet Hymnologist?
Closet.
That's close enough. So if I have one basic rule of thumb for buying equipment, really buying anything, it's this. First of all, use what you already have. And second of all, if you need to buy something, make sure it's something that you can use for a lot of different purposes. That's how I think about everything from weed whackers to shoes. And it's also how I think about my acoustic guitar rig. So most Sundays I find myself playing acoustic guitar, maybe me and a keyboard player and a couple vocalists. So over the years I tried to figure out ways to get the most out of my guitar sound. So this might seem kind of obvious, but it can't be overstated. You gotta start with a good instrument. It doesn't have to be the most amazing guitar in the world, but it should be a decent one that sounds good, one that you like to play. I will just play a little bit on this guitar, direct in, and you'll hear what it sounds like before I really do anything. All right, so that is straight plugged in, no effects, no nothing. Unfortunately, the setup I'm talking about is not available exactly on Android. Some of the apps I use don't work with Android. I'm not saying that you can't do something like this on Android, but this exact setup probably won't work. So the next thing you're gonna need is some kind of digital interface, some kind of way of getting the sound from your guitar into the iPhone. And for that, I recommend the iRig HD2, which goes for about $100. So it's not cheap. You can get sort of an analog version of this for $30 or $40. I don't recommend it. So on the iRig HD2, you've got a headphone jack, which is great if you want to just use headphones. You've got a port to connect it to the phone, and then on the bottom here, you've got an input and output 1/4-inch jacks. All right, so now we're connected. I've got some headphones because I want to be able to hear what I'm doing. Let's talk about apps. So the first is AmpKit Plus from Agile Partners. It's an amp and pedal simulator. Well, it's free, except if you spend $20, you can unlock everything. And everything is a lot. Tons and tons of pedals and amps and cabinet simulators and microphone simulators. More than you really need for acoustic guitar, but if you're an electric guitar player, tons of options. And I think it sounds really good. There's a lot of other apps out there. I have dabbled in some of the other ones. I really like AmpKit the most because I think it gives you the most versatility. So the way it works is you've got all your pedals here that you've assigned to this particular sound. So I've got a noise gate here. Then I've got a chorus pedal, which I don't use all the time, but I'll get back to that in a little bit. Then I come to my compressor. Now, the compressor pedal is easily the most important pedal because if you're not familiar with compression, there's a lot that can be said about it, but suffice it to say, it's going to even out the sound of my guitar a little bit. And then I've got some EQ going on and a delay pedal, which I only turn on very rarely, but I do use it occasionally. And then I've got just a little bit of reverb effect as well. And this is what it sounds like. Yeah, and one of the nice things you can do is you could turn on, for example, the ensemble pedal for a slightly different sound. If you like that sort of chorusy guitar sound, and I sometimes add some delay. So you've got all of these pedals. I mean, we've got a lot more pedals than what I just showed you here. So you could really go nuts. And a little bit later, we actually will kind of go nuts. But what do I do next? The next thing I do is another app called Crystalline Mini. And it's a $3 app on the App Store For some reason it has a 1-star rating. I don't understand why, because it's really cool and really fun, and for $3 it's absolutely worth it. This is the default sound. So it takes the sound that it's getting and it kind of does all this mumbo jumbo to it. And what I use this for is essentially creating kind of a pad. Give it a little bit of like a kind of modern synthy touch without going too far, but it's totally responsive to what I'm actually playing. So Crystalline Mini will also work side by side with AmpKit. So AmpKit is generating its sound, Crystalline's generating its sound. They happen at the same time. You don't need another app like AudioBus or something to mix the signals. So if you use it the way that I'm using it here, you want to make sure that in Crystalline your mix is set all the way to the top, and then to adjust the volume of the actual output of this effect, you'll actually use your output under settings. I'll set it down to about like 40 or something. All right, and this is a little bit of what that sounds like. But then once I got that working, I said, okay, well, now I want a way to turn on and off Crystalline, or to be able to turn on and off these pedals without having to touch the app. And that's where the next piece of equipment comes in. The iRig Blueboard. So the iRig Blueboard goes for $99, but what it lets you do is a lot. So essentially you've got 4 different controls, and this sends a signal over Bluetooth to your phone to trigger different MIDI events. It also has a couple inputs for expression pedals. So we're back to our original sound, AmpKit sound, but I've got it set up to unmute Crystalline when I press this first pad here. So now you can hear Crystalline is mixed in there. This pedal is that chorus effect. And this pedal is that delay effect. So this is a pretty wild sound for an acoustic guitar, and sometimes it's nice to use it. So anyway, the iPhone, AmpKit, Crystalline Mini, all controlled via a Blueboard. A lot of times that is basically the setup that I use. But you get a lot of options here, so you really can go nuts. So I got this Behringer pedal for the Behringer pedal and this short TRS cable for $36. The analog use of this pedal, garbage. It sounds terrible. It kills your tone. I hate it. However, as an expression pedal, as a MIDI controller, it works just fine. And then there's also one more app that I added into the mix, AU Push. Now, if you remember what I said earlier, the compressor pedal was, in my opinion, the most important part of the sound. So what I did is I went and got AU Push, which is a standalone compressor, so that I can get a pretty good guitar sound without using AmpKit, so that I can use AmpKit for something else. And I'll show you what I mean. So this is what the guitar sounds like through AU Push only. So let's go back to AmpKit. I'm going to open that up again. So I created a sound in AmpKit, kind of a big, fuzzy, epic electric guitar sound. So I've got the pedal here. Here's my normal guitar sound. I can still kick in the Crystalline if I want to. Using this pedal, I can ease in a sort of distorted electric guitar sound. On its own, it sounds a little strange, but when you're playing with a whole band, it actually works. The way that I made it controllable, I don't know if you can see this here. I'll click on it. When I move the pedal, it moves the knob. And when the knob goes, or when this slider goes all the way up to positive 12 dB, it basically is the same as bringing all these back up to the middle. So essentially brings things back to normal. Then I've got a noise gate. Usually you would put the noise gate earlier on in a signal chain, but the EQ pedal still lets a little bit of the sound bleed through. So I've put a noise gate after it so that when I have the pedal all the way down, it can essentially completely mute it, but also still bring it in kind of subtly if I want. All right, so why is this a hack? If you've been doing the math, I'm recording something, okay? I'm recording something.
But can I just sit?
Can you just sit?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I really do think this saves you tons of money, even though if you've been doing the math, you'll see that I spent like a total of $264 on this whole setup. There's two reasons.
Hi.
Pedals will cost you $50 to $250. Can you just... So you could spend, you know, about the same amount of money and probably get a couple pedals, but you'd have nowhere near the kind of variety and versatility that this setup provides.
Yeah.
Thanks. If you had this much hardware equivalent, it would probably take up like 4 duffel bags worth of stuff, so it's just a lot easier to transport around. So an audio purist will tell you that it doesn't sound as good as real pedals, and they're probably right. Maybe it sounds 90% as good, but it costs 10% of the alternative and weighs a great deal less as well. Okay, can you help me close things off?